So this is chapter 14, verses 90 to 27. So we heard about these modes and how they are binding. What's the results if we die in these modes? What's the result of acting in these modes? And everything in this in what's going on in this world happens under these modes. But now, of course, the question comes: how can we transcend these modes? And that will be discussed in this last section. The answer is, of course, devotional service, pure devotional service. But in this section, Arjuna will ask two questions. What are the symptoms of a transcendentalist? It will be discussed in verses 23 till 25. And then he's asking, what's the behavior? How can we recognize someone outside? How can we recognize such a person? What is his behavior? That's discussed also. Yeah, that's discussed in verses, in this 23 till 25 also. Both are there. Yeah, 23 till 25 is about the behavior. And verse 22 answers the question about the symptoms. What are the symptoms? How can I recognize such a person who has transcended the modes? And then in the last two verses, 26 and 27, there Bhakti is discussed as a method of transcending the modes. But first, we go to verse 19. Nayam gunebhya kartaram yadadashtan pashyati gunebhya saparam veti madbhavam sodgachati. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than the modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So two things here, that one must know that there is no performer other than these three modes. That's what's happening in this world. But one who knows this and who knows the transcendental activities of the Lord, who is above these modes, he can find the solution and attain also the spiritual nature. Of course, how to do that will be explained further. That is so. The point here is that one can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them and properly learning them from the proper source, the spiritual master. Similarly, it is from those who are in full Krishna consciousness that one who has transcended these modes, why on that platform, one has to learn the activities, the signs of the activities that how to transcend these modes. But one can learn from them how the modes work. And if we understand how the modes work, then we avoid passion and ignorance and act out always in goodness, in Krishna consciousness. That we have to learn. How to do that, we will hear now. Actually, the living entity is not a performer of different activities. We heard that before. He's forced to act because he's situated in a particular body conducted by some particular mode of nature. Unless one has the help of a spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. So you cannot understand how you are influenced by the modes, that how you are factually controlled, that unless one has the help of a spiritual authority. So a man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of material modes of nature. That's freedom. That is real freedom. When one attains pure Krishna consciousness, one gets out of the control of material nature. For one is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature clearly sees. So this knowledge here is so powerful. If you see what's going on, you can get the exit, how to get out of all of it, all of this. It's so powerful that so we have the other. Okay, so here. This is so. This is a summary. One transcends all the three modes by knowing that everything within the modes takes place under the modes, and by understanding that Krishna's activities are transcendental to the modes. One who engages in undeviating devotional service comes to the level of Brahman, of which Krishna is the source. So in verse 22, Verse 22 answers Arjuna's first question about the symptoms of a transcendentalist. And verses 23-25 answers his second question as to what is the behavior of such a person. Yes. And verses 26-27 does the method of transcending the modes. Pure bhakti, pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service. So that we discussed just verse 19. By understanding from a bona fide spiritual master how the modes control all activities and how the Lord is beyond them, one can transcend the modes and become fully Krishna conscious. Now text 20. Text 20, first we go to the Gunannitanatitchatrin Dedeya Samudbhavan Janmamitacha Dukhe Vimukta Mitam Asnute. When the embodied being is able to transcend his three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and disease, and their distresses, and enjoy the nectar even in this life. So that is the benefit of transcending these modes. So although one is within the material body, by his advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can be freed from the influence of the modes of nature. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the sign of liberation from material entanglement. And now Arjuna is going to ask his questions in text 21. Arjuna uvacha kailingastrin gunanetan attito bhavati prabho kimacharya katam shaitams tringunan ativartate. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature? So now Krishna will ask these three questions one after another. First, in the next verse, he will speak about the symptoms, and also then after the behavior, and in 26-27 how to transcend the modes. That
Hare Krishna Maharaj, sorry. What is the difference between symptoms and behavior?
The difference between symptom and behavior. That these two questions seem similar, but there is a subtle difference. The symptoms in verse 22 they are perceivable only by the person himself. He can see, do I have these symptoms or not? But the behavior is perceivable by others. So we will see here in text 22, you have this first verse. Bhagavan Vacha Prakasham sa pavityam shaman mohan eva sapandava natvesti sampravrittani navrittani kankshati. So that's the first sentence. It does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear. Is unwavering and undisturbed by all these reactions of material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing the modes adona active. That are the symptoms. But now the behavior, how does he behave? Who is situated in the self regards happiness and distress alike. Does the same. That's his behavior. So that's different. Huh? He looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal to all the desirable and indesirable, who is studied, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor. So if you see someone who is not affected by dishonor or honor, when he's praised, he's not interested, and when he's dishonored, he doesn't care. That is behavior. Is that okay to get that difference? It's subtle. It's very subtle, but there is a difference. Good. That. Anyway, you asked this question, but I was going to explain that anyway. That is, by that it is a done. That so we were 2025. Start this answer. But first, let's first go back. Here. By spiritual, by advancement in spiritual knowledge, one can enjoy spiritual happiness even while existing in a material body. So that is a good example. That's 22:25. But we go first to the text. You will read it. So that's the answer on the first two questions, symptoms and behavior. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prakasham sa pravittim shamoaneva sapandavanat vesti sampravittani na nifritani kankshati udashino vadashino guneryo na vichalyate guna vartate ityenam yo vatishtati ningate samdakaskaspasta samlustasma Kanyanam Tulya Priyapayo Dihras Tulya Nindahatma Samstuti Manapamana Yostulyas Tulya Mitrari Paksayos Sarvaramba Paritsaya Unatita Sauchate. So maybe someone can read the translation. Is that possible? On the screen.
I can read.
Yeah, please.
The personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and illusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a limb of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
So I will just go over the main points of the purport here. So a person transcendently situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. Envy means someone has something that I also want, and I feel sorry for that. Jealousy. That, but everything belongs to Krishna, factually. That one who is transcendentally situated understands that nothing is mine. That so there is no hankering for things. One feels completely satisfied. So when one is actually out of the body, then is out of the clutches of material modes of nature. But as long as one is not out of the body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. So that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. That, yes. And the qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from them, from the body. Nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. He's free because happiness and distress in the material world is for the body, and he's not interested in that. He's interested in serving Krishna and feeling the higher pleasure of being connected with Krishna. That, but this body, happiness and distress, yeah, that comes and goes. Krishna has said, that is but that means that is transcendentally situated. One is not affected by honor and dishonor. One must exercise this. Trinat Pisvitsna, Taravisrisna, Amana Manadna, Kirtanya Sadari. One should be ready. One should be ready to give all honor to others and not ask honor for oneself. That's the practice to come to that stage. So one performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether one honors or dishonors him. Doesn't matter. It's for the body, dishonor and dishonor. Someone may be honored his whole life and feel happy, and the other is dishonored and put down the whole his life, and he feels so-called unhappy. At the end of life, what's the result for those? Both die. It's finished. All for nothing. It's for the body. It's craziness. Just let it go, these things. Yeah. So he takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness. That's a good instruction. One who helps me to get out of this material world to become and try to become Krishna conscious is my friend, real friend. And he does not hate his so-called enemy, because the so-called enemy brings just you the reaction of your actions in your previous life. He's just bringing it. So you don't have to be to see the messenger as an enemy. So he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with the material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated. So we see this is very rare in this world. Let's go back to our, we're here. So as long as one is under the control of the material body, he is under the control of the modes of nature. But as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. By engaging in devotional services, identity with the material body will be automatically forgotten. You identify as spirit soul, your real identity. That a devotee accepts things favorable for his service in Krishna consciousness and rejects things unfavorable. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. So this is a Harinam party in Slovakia that
Maharaj, looks like you've been there also.
Yeah, I'm here.
That's what I'm looking. Thank you.
Was Slovakia. This is in the capital city of Slovakia. Forgot the name. Anyway, 26. Mamsayo vyabhacharena bhakti yogana sevate Sakadam samatichetam brahma bhuya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service and failing in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus come to the level of Brahman. So that is how to transcend the modes. So this is the answer on Arjuna's third question. I make just a few points of the report. Instead of putting his Krishna consciousness in such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Now, don't perform activities in the modes, always purposely. Do it for Krishna without asking anything in return. Yes, Anya Bilasa Sunam, Jnana Karmatanavitam, Anukulina Krishna, Chilna, and Buddham, Bhakti Uttama. Pure devotional service, Rupa Goswami said, is service that which is conducted without any material motive. Anya Vilasita. All other desires are zero. Anya Vilasita Sunyam. All other desires done to serve Krishna are Sunyam, zero. Anya Vilasita Sunyam. And Jnana Karmatanavitam, without any desire to get knowledge or liberation, without any desire to get fruitive results. And it should be done to please Krishna. So that is Krishna conscious activity. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. Because Sarvadamam Pechiyam Mamkam Sarvam from Sarvapavya Mokshisya Machicha. Surrender unto Krishna. Krishna says, surrender unto me, I will take care of you. I bring you to the transcendent platform immediately. But Of course, it should be pure, not, okay, Krishna, I do that for you, but I also want that for me. One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. It doesn't work. You will be still in under the modes. You may become a bit purified because Krishna is involved. But that's a problem. But surrender. As gold particles, as gold particles are part of a gold mine, this living entity in a spiritual position is as good as gold, as Krishna's transcendent, as Krishna's quality. So Krishna's quality is Shuddha Sattva, transcendental. And then we become also transcendental. So like gold is part of the gold mine. Our pure consciousness is part of the transcendence. Krishna's consciousness is always pure. If our consciousness is pure, then we can relate, we can serve Krishna directly if we come to that platform. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Lord, Prabhupada says. Here he confirms, you must. Of course, we are serving Krishna also, and we are not pure. What then? We do it on behalf of the spiritual master, and therefore Krishna accepts it. That's how it works. Therefore, before we offer something to Krishna, we always pray to the spiritual master. It's very important. A personal assistant to a king must acquire the qualifications. So even we don't have the qualifications our spiritual master has, and we are the servant of the spiritual master. We see us as such. So one can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. So Shuddha Sattva. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as a spirit soul. Okay. Quotes. There are quotes. Prabhupada quotes. 18 different quotes that okay. We should not envy someone on a higher level than us. Krishna says, Abrahma Bhuvanaloka Punarvartunarya. Even if you go to Brahma Loka, one day you will have to come down to the hellish Loka. Just like the wheel turns around, sometimes up, sometimes down. So this is the position in the material world. There is no question of lamenting. You cannot say these people are suffering and those are enjoying. The man who is enjoying will also suffer the next moment. This is going on. Suffering and enjoying. Unless we come to Krishna consciousness, there is no way of coming out of the duality of this world. This is duality. Everywhere you'll find duality. Unless there is happiness, you cannot understand distress. Unless there is distress, you cannot understand happiness. You cannot understand light unless there is darkness. So in this world, darkness and so-called light. There is darkness and so-called light. You have to transcend Tyaktva, Dhyan Punarjanma Naiti. The only enjoyment is Kirtan Ras. So we have to prepare ourselves according to our desire for which planet we wish to go. But Krishna says, Machajno Piyantimam. Yeah, this is a quote of verse 18, but I wanted to read one of the quotes of 26. And there are many. Can someone read this? How is the devotee infallible?
John Maharaj, how
Yeah, please
the
do.
devotee infallible? Okay. Therefore, anyone who is earnestly serious in heart and soul about being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service will always be infallible in words and action. The reason is that the Supreme Lord is the absolute truth, and anything earnestly dovetailed with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality.
Yes, dovetailing. Everything we do for Krishna. So even if we are in the modes, and due to the modes, we have certain capacities. We use these capacities in Krishna's service. That's dovetailing. And then it becomes transcendental. That is very important. We have to use our material nature, psychophysical nature in the service of Krishna. Can someone read the next also? Also not liberated, he can attain the platform of liberation.
Should I continue?
If you like, yeah.
Okay. Although not liberated, he can attain the platform of liberation. Even in the non-liberated stage, a living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna. Thus, with the proportionate improvement of such transcendental devotional service, the devotee makes definite progress towards Brahmagatim or Atmagatim, and ultimately attains the abode of the Lord without difficulty. The antiseptic potency of the devotional service is to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of the devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for the next birth for complete liberation.
Antiseptic potency of devotional service. It purifies the subtle body of these rajas and tamas quite effectively, and it is the only process that will purify the heart, that to the root, that other processes cannot do that. Jnana Yoga cannot do that. Astanga Yoga cannot do that. Only Bhakti Yoga can do that. Therefore Krishna says here, Mamsya Vyabhacharana Bhakti Yoga Sevata Avyabhacharana, yeah, pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service. But it must be purely practiced. Okay, that we have also quotes for, a long quote for 71, but we will first read the verse. First look at PowerPoint 26. One can engage in transcendental relationship with the Lord by engaging in unfailing devotional service, because devotional service elevates one beyond the modes of the level of Brahman. That's the level of devotional service, transcendental devotional service they practice in the spiritual world. We can also that practice here. If we practice that here, then we will become purified. And if we become purified, after being pure, then devotional service begins. Then you can start to develop love for Krishna. But as long as this contamination is in the heart, there's no development of love. The pure transcendental love starts from the platform of liberation, Nishta. But of course, when we become purified, then our attraction to Krishna starts to grow. And it begins already. A person fixed in devotional service retains his infinite infinitesimal separateness and individuality, although there could be no Bhakti Yoga. So that should be not. There's a little error here in the should be 27 here also. We will come to that, but we will now first read 27, the last verse of the chapter. Yeah. Brahmanoi pratishthanam amritasya vayasya sasvatasya sadharmasya sukasya kantakasya sa. And I'm the base of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So, to understand that, first, one must understand these three stages of the Absolute Truth, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Vedanta tattva vidas tattvam jnanam atvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sapyate. The great sages have decided that the Absolute Truth has three levels, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the source of Paramatma and Brahman. So Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within Krishna. So when a living entity is conditioned by the material modes of nature and begins cultivation of transcendental knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. The Brahman conception is 1855-54 Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta Prashna Nashustin Nakankshi Samsveshu Bhutishu Mad Bhaktim Nabate Baram. Is a Brahma Bhuta planet. That's where spiritual life begins after purification of the heart. Brahma Bhuta. Then Prashanatma, because there is no hungering, no lamentation, you feel peaceful. And so that's Brahman realization. Then one attains the Brahman conception when one is purified. But when one is not actually perfect in Brahman realization, if he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to Paramatma realization. So the jnanis, they come usually to Brahman realization. That's their goal. And the yogis, the bona fide yogis, their goal is Paramatma. That 6-7 of the Bhagavad Gita, that Citatma Prashantasya Paramatma Samaita. When one has conquered the mind, Paramatma is reached in the heart. That's the goal of the yogis. So one cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal Brahman conception if one does not elevate himself beyond the Brahman conception. The risk is there of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman, without going further with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Why? Why is his intelligence not clear? Because he has realized, I'm not his body, I'm Brahman, but he has not realized who he is. He's a part and parcel of the Lord. And he has not realized that he must practice spiritual activities beyond Brahman. Is serving Krishna transcendentally, devotional service, has not understood who he is, therefore his intelligence is not perfectly clear. So the servant of the Lord enjoy on an almost equal level with the king, and also eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of the Brahman or eternity or imperishability is included in devotional service. So that's, if you perform devotional service, you don't have to strive for Brahman realization. You will come to Brahman realization and go beyond, and you will come to a Shakti, that is Paramatma realization, and then you will go to Bhagavan realization, Prema. It's included. So by engagement in devotional service and full Krishna consciousness, is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Clearly, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one comes firmly situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So one should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deities, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord has his transcendental pastimes, read of different activities of the Lord. That's what we should do. His reciprocation of love with his devotees. Chant always transcendental vibrations. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare. Observe the fasting days, commemorating the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his devotees. By following such process, one becomes completely detached from material activities. One can just situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti, or the different varieties of Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. So that now we have a quote that helps us to understand that even more deeply. Book of Quotes 27. Yeah, can someone read the last quote? Why do devotees prefer to realize Krishna?
I can read, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Narada to Yudhishthira. The impersonal Brahman, Krishna himself, because Krishna is the source of the impersonal Brahman. He is the origin of the transcendental bliss sought by great saintly persons. Yet he, the Supreme Person, is your most dear friend and constant well-wisher, and is intimately related to you as the son of your maternal uncle. Indeed, sorry.
Yeah.
Indeed, he is always like your body and soul. He is worshipable, yet he acts as your servant and sometimes as your master. That same Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acted as the supreme friend and relative of the Pandavas, and sometimes he even acted as their servant. How? By carrying a letter from the Pandavas to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Because Krishna was the well-wisher of the Pandavas, he also acted as a guru. How? By becoming the spiritual master of Arjuna. Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. And Krishna sometimes chastised him. For example, the Lord said, Ashochan anvashochan stvam pragyavadam shchabashyase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The Lord also said, Kutastvam kashmalam idam vishame samopastitam. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Such was the intimate relationship between the Pandavas and Krishna. In the same way, a pure devotee of the Lord is always with Krishna through thick and thin. His way of life is Krishna. As a personal realization is superior to impersonal, so the devotees are experiencing superior pleasure because they are having loving exchanges with Krishna, the Supreme Brahman. Srimad Bhagavatam 7:10-49.
So yes, Krishna reciprocates with his devotees. Krishna consciousness factually means to live in a relationship with Krishna. And when you live in that relationship, you are always blissful. That we need relationship. That that is our nature. That it's not natural to avoid this relationship like the impersonalist. But in these sections we heard Arjuna's questions, Krishna's answers. That we understand them. Yes, there's also personal application. How can we taste spiritual happiness? We just heard that spiritual happiness comes from contact with Krishna, from a relationship with Krishna. If we do things for Krishna, then there's a relationship to Krishna in itself, that given to Krishna, pleasing Krishna. That we have many arguments here in this verse against impersonalists. That so Krishna says in this verse 27 that, yeah, Brahman is subordinate to me. So Brahman is not supreme. That is what the impersonalists say. That, so there are strong arguments against impersonalists. That, of course, there is a theological application also. How are we not affected by social and political issues? That on the soul level, if we are in our relationship with Krishna, we are not affected by it. But as long as we are not on that level, we will be affected. And we have to be very careful not to be affected by it. We can avoid being affected by it by fully engagement in devotion service. Because then we are not on this platform of duality, good and bad, of the body. So this was chapter 13. Yeah, at the end, chapter 13. It's now, just a moment, 12:47. We will have a pause till 1 o'clock, and then we will just introduce the beginning of the 15th chapter. So we have a pause of 12-13 minutes till 1 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
There you go.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.